I'm calling Gareth Hughes 5 minutes.
The Speaker, ngā mihi nui kia koutou kia ora. I just want to touch on one of the last comments the last member made, which was, who's going to pay for the warm homes? Well, look, Mr Speaker, I'm proud that my party's worked with that party and that party to deliver hundreds of thousands of warmer homes. Who's going to pay for it? We agreed it was beneficial. In fact, it had a 2-to-1 cost ratio, so we'd like to insulate more of those cold, damp and unhealthy homes. And if the government's just going to stand there and say, oh, well, what can we do about it? We can't do anything about it. Who's going to pay for it? People are going to continue to struggle. People are going to continue to get sick. They're going to go to hospital. And sadly, Mr Speaker, we do see a terribly high number of Kiwis dying as a result of our housing. That's something we want to work on. Mr Speaker, I rise to support the taxation annual rates for 2015-16 research and development and remedial matters bill. I don't think any party in this House is likely to put that on an election billboard, the title of this bill. But Mr Speaker, I do hope that innovation and research and development becomes an election issue, because it is a key defining separation down the corridor of this chamber. Mr Speaker, this bill contains a whole bunch of tweaks from GST and body corporates, working for families, minor remedial matters, and we also see some changes around tax credits and black hole deductible expenditure. Mr Speaker,
Order.
What we see, and the IRD estimates the total tax impact of this bill is around $17 million a year. And this is what I mean by the dividing line separating the policies in this parliament. On this side, we see the big change, $17 million in tax. Mr Speaker, last election, the Greens took a policy of an additional billion, with a B, $billion in research and development. We want to see a more diversified economy. We want to see a richer economy. We want to see a New Zealand that doesn't just export those bland brown paper bags of milk powder overseas, because there is a limit, and we're seeing it in our waterways. There is no limit to the IP, the services, the software, the products, the ideas that we could be coming up. But if we're just going to be tinkering around the edges with an additional $17 million per annum, we're not going to get there. And I think it was quite telling, the last member's contribution. The wheels are well and truly falling off the government when they can't talk about their own legislation, they can't talk about their own track record, they'd rather talk about opposition policies. That shows they're rattled. That shows they've run out of ideas and they'd rather talk about the other side's ideas. And because all we're seeing is tweaks. Now, in fact, Mr Speaker, this legislation is a bit of a U-turn, because the government opposed and got rid of tax credit for research and development. What do we see in the government's legislation? Tax credits for research and development. So, Mr Speaker, while the Green Party supports it, because it is a step in the right direction, the Green Party has a vision, a fully costed out plan to achieve a richer, smarter, more innovative economy. We would invest an additional $1 billion in research and development over the course of 3 years. We would get us moving in the right direction, away from the bottom half of the OECD as a percentage of GDP R&D spend. We would see more Kiwis being patents, because what we see under the current government is R&D in the bottom half of the OECD. We patent 4 times less than the developed world average. We have an innovation problem. In fact, under the current government, the New Zealand economy, according to the metrics, has become more simplified. That means we're more susceptible to shocks, as we're seeing in the dairy industry. We heard last week of a $17 billion hole in the government's accounts. A richer, smarter economy is the Greens' plan, Mr Speaker. We'd also not just throw additional amounts of money and pretend as if it matters, because that's short-term politics. That's cynical politics. We want to see a transformational shift in the way the New Zealand economy operates, because we want to see it operate for everyone. We want to make sure those kids are growing up in warm, dry, safe homes. We want to make sure they've got a job in the future economy, not just the past one. That's why we're opposed to Minister Bridges' gamble for oil drilling, which plainly isn't working. No one's doing any drilling, Mr Speaker. Royalties are down $500 million. Jobs in Taranaki and their sector are down 20 to 30%. This government is doing everything they can under the sun to support one particular industry. We want to support the future. It's innovation, Mr Speaker.